Some names cut deeper than knives, especially when they're whispered by someone you've never met. Someone who should never have known you, and yet somehow already does. I was just locking the door to my apartment when I heard someone call my name. Not my nickname, not a misheard greeting. My full name, Jack. I turned sharply. The hallway was empty, silent. Still, my building is always quiet at night. Old floors, faded paint, bad lighting. The kind of place no one wants to stay longer than necessary. But something about tonight felt wrong. Like the silence wasn't empty. Like it was waiting. And then I saw him. At the far end of the hallway, standing completely still, was an old man. He leaned on a thin, polished cane. Black overcoat. Black hat. I couldn't see his face. The shadows swallowed everything above his mouth. But even from that distance, I could feel it. He was watching me. "You've come back," he said, voice gravelly but steady. "What?" I asked, barely louder than a whisper. "You don't remember," he continued. "That's okay. You will." He took one step forward. The lights above him flickered. My hand gripped the doorknob behind me instinctively. "Do I know you?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he smiled. Slow, sad, like someone seeing a ghost. Or greeting one. "We've met," he said. "But not yet." The light above me blinked once, and then went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. He was gone. No footsteps, no doors creaking, just silence. I stood frozen for what felt like forever. That hallway, empty as ever, seemed to breathe around me. The walls groaned softly, old pipes, or maybe my imagination, and I could hear my heart hammering in my chest. My name, Jack. He had said it with such certainty. But no one in this city knows my real name. At work, I go by Jay. My neighbors call me Kid, or don't talk to me at all. Even on official documents, I'd legally changed it years ago. Jack is buried. I buried him. When I finally stepped back inside my apartment, something felt wrong. Like the air was heavier. Like the walls remembered something I didn't. I triple-locked the door. Checked the windows. Everything looked fine. Normal. But that name, it echoed. Jack. My name. My real name. The one I abandoned 10 years ago. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak in the walls sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind outside felt like breath against the glass. I kept the light on, kept the phone charged, kept repeating to myself, "It's just in your head. He's not real. You imagined it." But just before dawn, as I drifted into uneasy sleep, I heard it again. Clear, cold, whispered right behind me. "You made a promise, Jack." I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't. Not after hearing that voice again. I checked every inch of my apartment. Doors, closets, windows, under the bed. Nothing. But that name, Jack, still echoed like an alarm inside my head. I tried to brush it off. Tried to convince myself it was a dream. Maybe a hallucination brought on by exhaustion or stress. But then I saw it. A note. On my kitchen table. One I hadn't written. One I hadn't placed. Folded neatly. No envelope. Yellowed edges, like it had aged faster than time should allow. I opened it. "You made a promise. You don't get to forget." No signature. No explanation. The handwriting was shaky, but familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. I searched the apartment again. Nothing. The door was still locked. The windows sealed. Either someone had broken in without leaving a trace, or I had put that note there myself and didn't remember. That's when it started. The dreams. Not nightmares. Not at first. Just strange memories. A child standing in a dark hallway. A wooden door with rusted hinges. A whisper coming from behind it, muffled like someone was trapped inside. And that name again. Jack. Not screamed. Not even spoken loudly. Just breathed, like a secret carried on the wind. I'd wake up gasping, my sheets tangled, my hands shaking. Once I found dirt under my fingernails. Another time, a dried blood smear on my wrist. Not fresh. Old. Cracked. Like it had been there for years. By day 3, I couldn't pretend it wasn't real anymore. The hallucinations, if that's what they were, got stronger. I'd pass mirrors and see someone else behind me. Not the old man from before. Someone else. Me, but older. Pallid skin. Sunken eyes. A thin scar down the left cheek I never had. And he'd be watching me with a look I couldn't describe. Like he was waiting for me to catch up, to become him. One afternoon, I opened my hallway door and found a small package sitting right outside. No label, no delivery slip. Inside, a photograph. Old, torn, faded from time, but still intact. It showed 3 children standing in front of a rusted gate. The boy in the middle was me, not a look-alike, not a "wow, that's weird" resemblance. It was me, but I'd never seen that place, never taken that photo. On the back, in smudged ink, were 4 words. Don't let it out. I didn't sleep that night either. Not really. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, the photograph on my chest like a weight. And when I finally closed my eyes, the hallway was waiting for me again. But this time I wasn't standing in it. I was walking down it. The air was thick, the floor soft, like I was walking on something buried beneath. And up ahead, the old man stood beneath a single buzzing light. "Do you see it yet?" he asked. I looked down. I was holding the same photograph, but the children were gone. The gate was open, and something black was crawling out. I woke up screaming. My hands were shaking, and when I looked down, the photograph I'd left on the table the night before was in my hand. I didn't leave the apartment for 2 days. The photograph stayed on my nightstand, facing down. I couldn't look at it again, not after what I saw in the dream. But the weight of it, the feeling of it, stayed with me. Like something inside the photo was still watching me. Still alive, still waiting to be remembered. By the 3rd night, I gave in. I flipped the photo over slowly, like I was disarming a bomb. The children were back. All 3 of them, standing outside that rusted gate. The boy in the middle, still me. Still with the same blank expression, the same hair, the same scar on the chin I'd gotten in a bike accident when I was 10. But now there was something new. A 4th figure, barely visible, in the shadows behind the gate. A tall, dark silhouette, hunched and faceless, like it had always been there, but I hadn't noticed it before. I stared for what felt like hours. That night I dreamed again. I was in the same place, the rusted gate, but now the children were older, and they weren't facing the camera. They were facing the gate, staring into the dark, frozen in place. A low rumble echoed from behind the iron bars. And then a whisper, "Why don't you let me out?" The ground cracked beneath my feet. The wind howled like it had a voice. And when I tried to run, I saw myself, the older version, standing at the gate, bleeding from the eyes, smiling. He pointed at me. "You let it out, Jack." I shot awake. It was 3:07 a.m. Same as before. I stumbled to the bathroom to splash water on my face, trying to breathe, trying to believe it wasn't real. But when I looked in the mirror, the face wasn't mine. It looked like me, but older, paler, hollow, and written across the fogged mirror in a dripping smear. You lied to us. That day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I searched the name Jack L. Kessler, my old identity, one I'd scrubbed from every document, every file, every corner of the internet I could touch. But something still came up, an old article, buried deep in some archive blog. No photo, just a headline. 3 children missing. Only one returns. Boy has no memory of the incident. I clicked it. My throat closed. The article was about a case in a small rural town I didn't recognize. But the name was mine. My old name. My childhood birthday. It said I was found in the woods after disappearing with 2 other kids. It said I had been in shock. Said I couldn't speak for 3 days. Said I didn't remember what happened. But I remember now. I remembered a place in the woods. An old iron gate buried beneath roots and vines. We thought it was just some weird abandoned thing. But I'd been the one who opened it. I was the one who stepped inside. And whatever was waiting in there came out with me. I sat on the floor of my apartment, shaking. I hadn't just buried the memory. I'd buried the truth. And now it was clawing its way back into my life. The old man in the hallway, the figure in the photo, the voice in the mirror. They were all trying to make me remember before something worse did. Because I hadn't just let something out. I had promised it something. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. There wasn't anyone to tell, really. Friends had become distant. Family, long gone or erased. Even the few people who still called me by my current name wouldn't understand. How do you explain something like this? That you let something out of a sealed place when you were a child. That you buried the memory. And now it was calling you back. I packed a bag, bought a bus ticket under a fake name, and left the city before the sun rose. The town was 3 hours north, a rural place barely even on maps anymore. No más, no caídas, just fields, dead woods, and a sky that always looked a little more gray than it should. As the bus rolled in, I started to feel it, that pressure in my chest. The kind you feel standing near something buried too deep and forgotten too long. The roads looked familiar, not visually but emotionally, like my skin recognized them before my eyes did. The town hadn't changed much. Old signs, rusted gas station, a diner with flickering neon letters that still read EATS. I didn't go to any of the places I used to know. I couldn't. It felt like every brick here remembered me, and I wasn't sure they were happy to see me back. I rented a small cabin outside town, near the woods. The woman at the desk didn't ask questions, didn't even ask for ID, just handed me a key and said, "They don't come out here much anymore." When I asked who they were, she only smiled. "You'll see." That night, I walked back into the woods. I didn't bring a flashlight. Didn't need one. I knew the path. My feet moved before I could think. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became. No birds. No wind. No insects. Just silence. And then I saw it. The gate. Rust devoured most of it. Thick vines coiled around the bars like veins. And at its base, dirt disturbed, shifted, like something had crawled out. My breath caught. Even after all these years, the sight of it turned my blood to ice. This was where it happened. This was where we played a game we didn't understand. This was where I opened the gate. I stepped closer and my legs almost gave out. Because nailed into the center of the gate was something new, A wooden sign. Old. Hand-carved. It read, "Only one came back." I wanted to run. I should have. But something made me reach for the gate instead. As my fingers touched the cold iron, I remembered. We were dared. Me, Casey, and Jonah. 3 bored kids in the summer. Someone at school had whispered a story about the forgotten gate deep in the woods. They said it was cursed. So it was a place that led nowhere or everywhere, depending on what you gave it. So we went. We laughed. We joked. We found it. We pushed it open. And then the air changed. Jonah said he heard something. Casey dared me to step inside. So I did. I don't remember what I saw. Not fully. Just that something moved. Something tall and wrong. Made of shadows, but heavier than bone. And it whispered. I don't remember what I said back. Only that I felt teeth inside my mind. And when I opened my eyes, I was alone. Now, standing before it again as a grown man, I realized something. The gate was never locked. I was. Behind me, a voice broke the silence. Do you remember now? I turned. The old man was standing at the edge of the trees. The same one from the hallway. Same coat. Same cane. But this time, his face was visible. It was mine. Older. Broken. Scarred. He stepped forward. You were supposed to seal it. Instead, you made a deal. My voice cracked. What did I promise? You stopped a few feet away. That when it came looking, you'd give it what it was owed. The wind had stopped. The forest around me stood still, unnaturally still. Even the trees seemed to be holding their breath. The older version of me, the man with my face, just stared. No blinking, no breathing, just waiting. I don't remember making a deal. I whispered. He tilted his head slightly. You don't have to remember it. You kept it. My blood turned cold. Kept what? He took a step closer. The piece it gave you. The one thing it wanted you to carry. You said yes. And now it wants it back. Behind me, the iron gate moaned. A sound like metal bones grinding together. I turned, and the gate was open. Just a crack. But enough. From beyond it, something moved. Slow. Heavy. Like dragging itself forward inch by inch. It wasn't running. It didn't have to, because it already knew where I lived. I stumbled back, breath shallow, head spinning. This isn't real, I muttered. I buried this. I forgot it for a reason. The old version of me didn't move. That was the deal. You could forget it for a while. It would stay quiet for a while. But you knew the rules, Jack. One day, the silence ends, and the debt comes due. I turned and ran, through the trees, across the dirt path, back to the cabin, back to light. I slammed the door, locked everything, shut the blinds, tried to breathe. But the moment I looked in the mirror over the kitchen sink, the face looking back wasn't mine again. This one was darker, rotten, not older, not younger, just empty, eyes black, skin cracked like dry earth, a mouth full of teeth that didn't belong in any human skull. And it spoke, but the lips didn't move. You took something from me. I fell to the floor. My ears rang. My vision blurred. The room swayed like I was underwater. I blinked, and suddenly I wasn't in the cabin anymore. I was in a room I'd never seen. Stone walls, wooden beams, a dirt floor with something carved into it. Symbols I couldn't read but somehow understood. Pain, binding, blood. In the corner, 2 figures huddled, 2 children. Casey, Jonah. They were whispering, crying, holding each other. And I was standing on the other side of the room. But not me. Him. The version of me that made the deal. the one who never left that place. He reached into his own chest and pulled something out. A black, flickering shape. Not solid, not smoke, something in between. And he gave it to something in the dark. And the dark whispered, "Then you will carry it." I woke up screaming. Back in the cabin, the photograph lay on my chest again, but the children were gone. Only the gate remained, and something behind it, smiling. I finally understood. I didn't just open something that day. I invited it in, and now I wanted what I took with me. The memories weren't hallucinations. They were warnings. I stood up, heart racing, blood roaring in my ears. I had to go back, all the way, not just to the gate, beyond it, to whatever waited inside, to whatever I left behind. I returned before dawn. The forest looked different this time, not just darker, older, like it had been waiting for me to walk this path again. I didn't bring a flashlight, didn't need one. The gate glowed faintly in the dark, as if the iron remembered me. When I stepped through, I expected pain. Cold, a sense of dread. Instead, it felt familiar. The ground beneath my feet was soft, not with mud, but with something else. Something that moved, like I was stepping on old memories still alive beneath the surface. The air smelled like rust, damp soil, and smoke. There were no stars above me anymore. No wind, just silence. It was loud. The path twisted. The forest behind me faded fast. I don't know how far I walked. The deeper I went, the less the world made sense. Trees bent in impossible shapes. Shadows curved the wrong way. And time slipped. It felt like hours, or minutes, or days. At the end of the path was a clearing. In its center, a pit. Circular, ancient, breathing. Not literally, no, but the way the air moved around it, the way the light bent at its edge. It pulsed. Something inside it was alive, or waiting to be. That's where I saw them again. Casey and Jonah. They weren't kids anymore. They stood on opposite ends of the pit, backs turned, motionless. I called out. No answer. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw their eyes. Black, hollow, like burnt holes through paper. They weren't really here. Not anymore. Just echoes that I looked down into the pit. And it looked back. No face. No body. Just presence. It filled my head without speaking. Thoughts not my own. Voices stacked atop one another. And then I felt it. Something inside me shift. Like my chest had unlocked. Like the thing I carried since I was 10 was waking up. It spoke. Not in words. In truth. You opened the door. You promised to carry me. You ran, but I grew inside you. And now, the weight must return. Pain tore through my chest. Like something inside was clawing upward. I felt my knees gasping, screaming. Flashes of the past hit me all at once. My hand reaching into the dark. A voice whispering, "Do you accept?" My nod. The way the world tilted when it entered me. The way Jonah screamed. The silence that followed. I had taken it in. Not because I was brave. Not because I understood. But because I was afraid to say no. And now, I was full of it. I collapsed. And in that moment, it began to crawl out. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I could feel it pressing upward inside my chest, like something waking after a long, hungry sleep. Every nerve in my body screamed, but the pain wasn't from outside. It was from within, like my blood had turned into nails. My skin stretched. My throat burned. And in my head, it whispered, "You were the door. You were always the door." I fell sideways into the dirt, convulsing. Hands clenched, eyes watering, spine arching. And then I saw it, not with my eyes, but inside my mind. A shape leaking out of my ribs like ink and water. It had no face, no form, but it breathed memory. My memory. Every moment I'd locked away came flooding back. Casey screaming as the light disappeared from her eyes. Jonah tried to run, but the gate closing behind him. Me, standing still, paralyzed, as something slithered into me like smoke through broken glass. I had let it in. I had offered myself, not to save them, but to survive. The shadow fully pulled itself free. It hovered above me, shifting, twitching, growing. It had no mouth, but I could hear it speak. You promised me more. I shook my head, sobbing. No, I didn't understand. I was just a kid. It screamed, not with sound, with gravity, with memory, with everything I had forgotten, now returning at once. The forest around us bent inward. Trees snapped like paper. The dirt pulsed with heat. I felt like the world was collapsing into that pit, and I was at its center. The shadow reached for me. I tried to crawl away, blood dripping from my nose. You got what you wanted. I shouted. I carried you. I lived with you. I never forgot you. And it paused. For the first time, it hesitated. Then it whispered. But I was not alone. I blinked. Confused. Terrified. What do you mean? It drifted to the side. Over the pit. Then it changed. It took shape. Jonah. Not the boy. But him now. Older. Twisted. Hollow-eyed. And behind him, another. Casey. Hair falling out. Skin pale. Her mouth sewn shut, not with thread, with memory. They had never left. Not really. The entity spoke again. You made the deal, but so did they. Each of you carried a piece. Only one was meant to return. I gasped. I wasn't the only door. I was just the one who came back. The pit opened wider, and from its center, 1,000 voices rose. Screaming, begging, whispers twisted in reverse. I fell to my knees, shaking. Then why now? I cried. Why come for me now? The shadow drifted closer. Because the others are dead, and you're the last piece. I screamed, louder than ever, because I realized what it wanted. Not just freedom, completion, to be whole again, to be real. To walk the world in flesh. Through me. The thing hovered inches from my face. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't scream anymore. It wasn't choking me, it was inside me. Like every thought I ever had was now being sifted through, torn apart, reshaped. You were the survivor, it said. You left. They stayed. You forgot. But I never did. Its voice wasn't coming from the air. It came from my chest, my bones, like it had built a home inside my ribs and was finally stepping out to claim the keys. I pushed myself off the ground, trembling. No, I whispered, you don't get to wear me. You don't get to walk through me. It laughed, not a sound, a pressure, a weight behind the ears. You already let me in, Jack. You didn't close the gate. You were the gate. And then it lunged. Not with hands. With memory. Suddenly I was 10 years old again. Back in the woods. Back in that clearing. The air sharp and wrong. Jonah was crying. Casey was screaming. And I was standing with my hands in the air, blood running down my wrists. I turned and saw myself. The older me. Watching. Silent. Letting it happen. Back in the present, I fell to my knees, gasping. I couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't just showing me memories. It was showing me the truth I never wanted to know. That I'd known what I was doing. Maybe not fully. Maybe not the consequences. But deep down, I'd made the choice. And now I had to unmake it. You want the last piece? I coughed. Then come take it. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the photograph. The one that had followed me everywhere. The one with the 3 kids. The gate behind us. I tore it in half. A shriek rang out, not mine, not human. The sky above the pit cracked. The trees shuddered. The ground trembled. The shape in front of me collapsed inward, like air sucked through a keyhole. What have you done? I broke the map, I said, barely able to stand. I burned the coordinates. I grabbed a nearby rock, sharp, jagged, and drove it into my palm. Blood splattered across the dirt. The pit screamed. My body shook violently like it was being pulled in both directions, one by my own will and one by the thing inside me. I screamed again, louder, roar, not from pain, from refusal. You don't get to finish this, I growled. I finished this. A wind burst out from the pit, a wind that carried names, whispers, cries, promises. Jonah, Casey, me. They weren't just gone. They were inside this thing too. And now they were coming out. I held the bleeding palm over the edge of the pit. If you want me, take me whole. No pieces left. No hiding. The shadow froze. For the first time, it hesitated. And then it screamed. A final sound, deep and ancient and furious. And it launched itself back into the pit, dragging the whispers, the faces, the promises, everything, gone. And then silence. The wind stopped. The trees stilled. The pit sealed. I collapsed on the forest floor. Alone. Alive. Empty. I don't remember walking out of the forest. One moment I was lying on the ground, heart slowing, pit sealed behind me. The next I was back in the town. The cabin behind me. Sky washed in pale morning light. Birds chirping like nothing had ever happened. Like the world had simply moved on. But I knew better. The silence in the trees. The taste of iron in the air. The way shadows stretched just a bit longer than they should. The world hadn't forgotten. It was just pretending. I looked down at my palm. The wound was gone. No scar. No blood. Like it had never been opened. But I remembered. The pit. The thing. The deal. All of it. Every word of the promise. And now, there was no one left who could share the truth. Jonah. Casey. The old version of me. Gone. Or maybe still echoing in the dirt. Back in the cabin, I found something on the table. A folded paper. Same kind as before. Same yellowing edges. No envelope. Just one line. One door closes. Another remembers. I burned it without opening it further. But the message stuck. Maybe I had closed the pit. Maybe I had silenced the thing that fed on us. But there's never just one gate. Never just one door. And once you've been a door, once you've let something in, you never really stop being one. That night, I sat in bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. I didn't expect it to. Some part of me stayed in that forest. Some part of me was buried there now, willingly. And yet, I could still feel it, a hum beneath my skin, a heartbeat that didn't quite match mine. Just before dawn, I went to the mirror, and I looked, and I waited. Nothing happened. No whispers. No faces. No fogged message. Just me. Older. Tired. Still here. I splashed cold water on my face. Reached for the light switch. But before I could touch it, my phone lit up on the counter. A call. Unknown number. Shaking, I picked it up. No sound. Then a whisper. "Jack." I didn't answer the voice. Just ended the call and dropped the phone into the sink. Let the water run until it buzzed and died. But even then, the whisper stayed. Not in sound, in air, in silence. A weight behind every moment. Back in the city, I tried to live normally. Got a haircut, bought groceries, laughed at things I didn't find funny, looked people in the eyes so they wouldn't look too hard at mine. But every day, something small went wrong. A shadow would move when I wasn't. A name I never told anyone would show up on a receipt. The lights in my apartment would flicker only when I stood still. Once I opened my fridge and found a photograph. The torn one. Whole again. 3 kids. Gate in the background. And this time, all 3 had their backs turned. I started recording myself while I slept. Just to be sure. Just to see. The first few nights, nothing. Just tossing. Turning. Breathing. Then, one night, at 3:07 a.m., I sat up. Not all the way. Just enough to face the wall. And I whispered, "He's still inside me." I never remembered saying that. I stopped watching the recordings after that. I didn't delete them, but I couldn't press play anymore. Some doors, I'd learned, are better left unopened, even the ones inside your own body. A few weeks later, I got mail. No return address. Inside, a cassette tape. Old, dirty, marked with one word. Listen, I don't own a tape player. Never have. But I knew someone who did, an old tech collector I used to help online. I called him, asked if I could borrow one. He paused, then said, "You already did." My blood froze. "No, I haven't. I gave it to you last week," he said, voice shaky. "You came to my shop. You call me by name. But I've never met you before. I found a tape player in my closet that night, wrapped in a towel, waiting. I didn't play the tape. Not that night. Not yet. But I knew what it would be. Not music. Not voices. Just breathing. And somewhere in the background, my name. Sometimes now, when I walk past a mirror, I see something behind me. Not always. Just enough. A shoulder. A smudge. A face watching me like it's waiting its turn. And every now and then, just as I'm drifting off to sleep, I hear 3 knocks on the wall, even when I'm not near one. I close the gate. I finish the deal. But there's one thing I've learned since. Just because the thing leaves you doesn't mean it left empty-handed. At 3:07 a.m. in that motel room, I woke up again. This time not to a sound, but to a weight. On my chest. Pinning me. I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. And in the dark, a face hovered inches from mine. Not the shadow. Not the gate. Not even the old man version of me. This was new. A face like mine, but distorted. Melted. Eyes where they shouldn't be. Mouth too wide. Teeth like broken glass. It whispered, lips grazing my ear. "You didn't close it. You became it." And then it vanished. I sat up gasping, drenched in sweat. My phone buzzed beside me. The one I'd left behind. I picked it up. The lock screen had changed. A single message burned across it in flickering letters. 3:07 is coming. I stopped checking clocks. Didn't matter if it was morning or midnight. 3:07 always found me. In mirrors. In whispers. In the twitching corner of my eye when I blinked too slowly. And every time it felt closer. Like something was stepping through me, 1 inch at a time. I stopped going outside. Not because I was afraid of people, but because I could hear what they weren't saying. Every person I passed seemed normal, calm, alive. But behind their eyes, there was a silence, the same kind that grew inside me. Then came the day I saw myself, not in the mirror, but across the street, standing, staring at me. Same coat, same shoes, same scar on the chin, but his eyes, empty, reflective, like looking into a dark well and seeing your own scream stare back. I turned around, ran, hid. I didn't come out for 3 days. Didn't eat, didn't sleep. I just sat in a motel bathroom, lights on, door locked, waiting for my breath to match my heartbeat again. But it never did. They were out of sync now. On the third night, I opened my eyes and found myself outside, barefoot, in the woods. No memory of how I got there. In front of me, the gate. But this wasn't the same forest. This wasn't even real, because the trees had no leaves, no sky above, just a ceiling of black glass. And behind the gate, me, bleeding, crying, smiling. He whispered, "You're not the one who came back. You're the one that stayed." And then it hit me. What if I never left? What if the Jack that closed the gate, that walked out of those woods, wasn't me? What if I'm still inside? Still dreaming? Still trapped? Still feeding it? Back in the motel, I awoke gasping, but there was no relief. Because the mirror was gone. Just a wall. And on that wall, scratched into the plaster with something sharp, "You are open." I had to go back, not because I thought I'd find answers, but because I was terrified of what I already knew. If I was still here, still haunted, still unraveling from the inside out, then maybe the Jack who walked away that day wasn't me. I returned to the woods, not the real ones, the ones inside my dreams, the ones that waited, with roots that pulsed like veins, with shadows that bent in reverse. The gate stood exactly where it always had, rusted, old, breathing. But now it was open. No vines, no warning, just an invitation. I stepped through, and it wasn't dark this time. It was bright, a white so sharp it hurt. A hallway, narrow, endless, covered in photos. I walked slowly, studying each frame. Every one a version of me. Jack at 6, crying over a scraped knee. Jack at 12, lost in those woods the first time. Jack at 17, eyes hollow, lips trembling. Jack at 23, running, always running. And at the very end, one final photo. Me, but not from the past. Me now, looking at the photo, a mirror inside a memory. And below it, carved into the wall, the door remembers who walked out. The hallway ended in a black room, empty, except for a chair. And in it, Jack, or the thing wearing him, wearing me. It stood up slowly, smiling, not evil, not angry, just inevitable. "You finally made it," it said. I couldn't speak. My throat was sand. "Do you remember?" it asked, stepping closer. "No, you whispered." It tilted its head. "Yes, you do. You always did. That's why you buried me. That's why you let me leave instead." My heart pounded. "I never left." It nodded. "You stayed. You watched. You carried the guilt, while I carried the shape." It leaned in. "We were both the door, Jack, but only one of us got to close it." And that's when I saw it. The final truth. There was no gate. There never was. The gate was me. The thing never crawled through it. It was born inside it. And when I chose to forget, I gave it room to grow. The thing reached into its chest, pulled out the old, torn photograph. The edges glowed faintly. It handed it to me. "You take it now," it said. "I'm done remembering." And just like that, It stepped into me, and I became whole again. I woke up on my bed, morning sun leaking through the window, phone buzzing on the nightstand, a message from a number I didn't recognize. Just one sentence. Tell me again, which one are you? The photograph still burned in my hands, not with fire, with weight. It pulsed, like it had a heartbeat of its own, or maybe it was just echoing mine. 3 children, a gate behind them. But now, the image was changing. One child faded, then the next. Only one remained, me. And beneath the photo, new words appeared, scrawled in red, as if written in blood and memory. The last to remember decides everything. I sat in silence, staring, waiting for the weight to tell me what to do. But no whisper came, no voice, no sado, just a feeling. This moment is yours, the only real thing left. I had 2 choices. Burn it, forget it, let the thing fade forever. Bury it where it could never claw back through me. Or keep it, own it, carry the memory like a shield and a curse. I lit a match, held it beneath the corner of the photograph. The fire licked upward slowly. The image curled, blackened, and then stopped, frozen. The flame went out, and the photo was whole again, like it had rejected the fire, like it had chosen me instead. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I understood. You don't destroy a memory. You survive it. You wear it. You walk with it every day, like an old scar that never quite stops itching. So I took the photograph, folded it, slipped it in my pocket, and left the cabin, back to the world, back to the city, to noise, to life. People asked where I'd been. I said, nowhere that matters. But some nights, at exactly 3:07 a.m., I wake up, sit on the edge of the bed, and feel something watching from the dark. Not threatening, not angry, just waiting for me to decide again. Because that's the truth, isn't it? You never escape the things you carry. You just learn how to walk while they whisper. So if you ever see a photo of a gate, 3 children in the woods, and only one is looking back, don't ask who it is. Just hope it's not you. It's been months. The photograph hasn't changed. No new whispers. No more sightings. Just quiet. Empty, soft, dangerous quiet. I moved to a new place. No booths. No gates. No mirrors near my bed. Just clean walls. A locked door. A clock that I keep unplugged. And still, every now and then, just before sleep, when everything is still, I hear it. 3 knocks. Always from behind me. Always from somewhere that shouldn't have a wall. And then one night, the knock came from inside the room. I didn't turn, didn't breathe, didn't dare, but I heard it. The voice. Calm. Familiar. Not mine. Not anymore. It leaned close and whispered. We never said goodbye. End.